Hello friends, good morning and welcome back to Nidhi classes. Here we are going to do a very important chapter of UGC NET Commerce Paper 1 exam, and that is of international business. Here we are going to study about the foreign trade transactions. The foreign trade transactions are of three types: import trade, export trade and interport trade. So you all must be knowing about the import trade and export trade. When you purchase the things from outside, that is the import trade. When they are selling the things to the foreign countries, that is export trade. And interport trade is just a combination of both the above things. Here we are purchasing the goods from one country and then we are exporting it to the other countries. So when we are importing it from one country and exporting it to the other countries, then that type of trade is known as the interport trade. Now we are going to discuss about the importance of foreign trade. The first is that uneven distribution of natural sources. It means that because here in foreign trade, all the countries are using their natural sources to produce what they can produce at their best level. So what happens that because there is an uneven distribution, some natural sources are very abundant in a country, and it may happen that the same natural source is not available in the other countries. So because all of them are combining together, cooperating with each other for production, so goods would be available to each and every country. Then division of labor and specialization. It may happen that a country is very rich in labor and another country is very rich in technology. So what will happen, because we're using the foreign trade, so the country which is rich in labor can use its labor to produce goods, and the country which is more specialized in technology can use its technology to produce goods. So all the countries will be getting the benefit of both. Now difference in economic growth rate, because the economic growth is different in different countries. So the country which are poor cannot produce very good quality goods, so they can import it from the other countries. Now theory of comparative cost. This theory we have already done in the last video. Now we can see just the advantage of foreign trade. First one is that we have discussed earlier also, optimal use of natural sources can be done. Then availability of all the types of goods in all the countries. A specialization of technology and labor both can be done. Advantage of large scale production, because the company which is producing the goods knows that its good will be used all over the world, so it can produce on a larger scale. A stability in prices. Then exchange of technical know-how and establishment of new industries. Technical know-how, the technology which has been emerging in one country can also be the other country would also be getting that technology, and they would also be able to use that. So new industry would be established in that manner. Efficiency would be increased. Then development of the means of transport and communication, because this foreign trade would be growing, so transport and communication needs to grow a lot. Now international cooperation and understanding. The people, the countries will be cooperating with each other. They would create a mutual understanding among themselves. Now the ability to face natural calamities. If there is a calamity in one country, then the other country would be helping that special country in facing the natural calamities. So the foreign trade is helping in all these manners. Now again, there are some problems in foreign trade also. But it's not like that foreign trade is completely beneficial in all the ways. There are some problems related to that. So one is the distance problem. Then diversity of language. The language is different in all the countries, and if a company wants to do foreign trade, then he must get knowledge of all the languages, of both the language which the country wants to export. Then transport and communication problem can be there. Risk and uncertainty. Fifth is lack of information about foreign trade. If you don't have much information about foreign trade, the company is not having much information about foreign trade, then it must not be able to do it on a very good scale. import and export restrictions are very much there in the foreign trade, so the company must have a good knowledge of all the things. Difficulties in payments, there are a lot of procedures that you need to just fulfill before doing this, because many restrictions are there. Then payment, you have to contact to the RBI, then many procedures have to be followed, various documents are to be used, then a study of foreign market. Means the mainly problem in foreign trade is that you need to gain a full knowledge of the thing, that how you're going to do it, then only, and you have to follow all the restrictions also, then only you will be able to do well in this foreign trade. Disadvantage of foreign trade: impediment in the development of home industries. If we are using the foreign trade, if we are importing the goods from outside, then the home industries, they are getting a hindrance at their development, because they now need to compete with the foreign goods. They now need to compete with the high technology and good quality goods. So that is creating a problem in the development of foreign industry. Now economic dependence is there. If a country is importing a lot of items from the outside, then it creates economically dependence on the other countries. Politically also it get dependent. Misutilization of natural resources, because if a country is knowing that it is utilizing it can utilize its natural resources for producing, so it will misutilize the natural resources of their country on a very large scale at that time only. So nothing will be left for the future generations. Okay, so that will be misutilization of natural resources. Import of harmful goods: when there everything available in the market, then it may happen that we're importing the harmful goods. Okay, now storage of goods can also be a problem. Danger in internal peace: it may be due to economic and political dependence. Then hardship in times of war: if suppose there is a war between the countries, then in that moment it can create a hardship, because the other countries, means the countries from which the specific country is importing more and more goods, that will interfere more in the economic and politically, so that will be creating a problem. Okay, now the most important thing of the chapter that we have to do is the stage of export procedure. What all are the procedures that we need to do before completing our export procedure? The first thing is that we have to receive inquiries and we have to send quotations. We will receive inquiries from the companies which are needing our products, and we will send the quotations of us. Second is receipt of order or indent. Indent is an order. What is the indent? Indent is containing the instructions regarding the price, quality and nature of packing. When you got the quotation, then the exporter needs to send the price, the quality and how it's going to pack the things. Indent can be of two types: open indent and closed indent. Now open indent is all the necessary facts are given by the importer, are not given by the importer, and exporter can complete the formality by itself. Suppose there are many things. Suppose you are taking a washing machine, so it may happen that you are not knowing the importer is not knowing the model of it, or some other taste it might not be knowing. So here in an open indent, the exporter can complete the formality by itself, but in a closed indent, the full particular of goods are given by the importer. Here, in a closed indent, the importer would be telling each and every minute details of the goods, and according to that, the exporter will be exporting the things. Now, the third procedure is credit inquiry or obtaining letter of credit. Okay, before exporting the goods, the exporter needs to inquire about the credit worthiness of the importer. And so what is letter of credit? Letter of credit is simply a guarantee by the bank to the foreign dealer that their bills up to a specified amount would be honored. They need a letter of credit so that their bills are not dishonored. Okay, now the types of letter of credit we have. One is the clean letter of credit, guarantee for the acceptance and payment of bills without documented letter of credit. Here the exporter bills of exchange has to be accompanied by certain documents that can evidence the title to goods. Okay, but the title of goods has to be accompanied by the letter of credit. Irrevocable letter of credit, it cannot be withdrawn without the consent of the beneficiary. Beneficiary means the importer. So without the consent of beneficiary, it cannot be withdrawn. Fixed letter of credit, here the amount of financial obligation of the bank, either in one bill or of several bills, is the fixed. Okay, so that amount can't be changed, and that one will be known as the fixed letter of credit. Then the next one is revolving letter of credit. Here the amount of credit automatically gets reversed to the original amount after such an amount has been paid as per the conditions of the business transaction. In this, what happens that if you have a transaction is done, so the amount of credit, if you have paid according to transaction, so it will be getting get automatically reversed to the original amount. Means all the things that are mentioned in the letter of credit, that will revolve again and again. The fourth step that we do have is obtain the export license and the quota. The exporter has to get an export license. If it is a newcomer, then it has to give an application to the Joint Chief Controller of Imports and Exports along with the required fees. And license that they get is valid for 3 months normally, and extension they can get for 1 to 3 months. So the exporter has to just check that whether it needs a license, and if it needs a license, then he has to do all the procedures related to that. Now the established exporters are there. Here the quotas are granted to them in proportion to the volume of export business handled by them. It means they are looking at the past events, and if that exporter is handling quite a good proportion of the export business of that country, so according to that the quotas are allotted to them. Now there are certain cases that where the exporters doesn't need the license. The first is that the goods exported are under the authority of central government. Then the personal baggage. If the goods are exported by post or by air, as per the conditions of postal authorities. Postal authorities have certain conditions, and if you are fulfilling that, then you need not take a specific license for exporting. Now goods imported and bounded in India or re-export except to Nepal and Bhutan. If you are re-exporting it other than countries of Nepal and Bhutan, then you don't need a license. Okay. Then goods exported in accordance with the terms of open general license. If it is connected to open general license, if it is according to the open general license, then you don't need a license specifically. Now the types of export license that we do have is the open general license, then the quota license, the newcomers license, the free license, and the limited free license. These are all the types of export license that the exporter needs to require according to the item that he is exporting. Now the next point is that we have to comply with the foreign exchange regulations. Here the exporter has to give a declaration that he will surrender the foreign exchange to the extent of full value of export to RBI within prescribed time. Whatever the foreign exchange the exporter is getting, he has to surrender the full amount to RBI within a prescribed time. So complying to that thing is a very important task. Okay. Now here what's required, 4 copies are prepared of the GR forms. Now one copy, the original copy is sent is remaining at the custom office at the time of shipment for verifying the value of goods. They need to verify the value of goods. The remaining 3 copies are sent to the bank. Now bank forwards 2 copies to the RBI, and foreign exchange when received is to be deposited in the bank. So this is the complete procedure that an exporter has to follow, and he has to submit the foreign exchange with the RBI. Now the 6th point is that fixing exchange rate, because you know that exchange rate are fluctuating according to the rates that are going on in the market. So the exchange rate at which the payment is made by the importer is fixed in advance at the time of placing an order, so that fluctuation in exchange rate do not lead to a dispute. They already fix it in advance when they are placing an order, so that doesn't create a problem later. The 7th step is 7th procedure is obtain the shipping order. After they have fixed the exchange rate, then what will happen? Here they make an agreement whereby the entire ship is hired for export, and that is known as chartered party agreement. The shipping order can be of 2 types. It can be a ready order or a forward order. In the case of ready order, only the name of ship and the date of departure are mentioned, and in a forward order only the date of departure is mentioned here. So even if the exporter is not able to send the goods on that date which is decided here or here also, then he has to pay the full freight. Okay, so here one thing is clear, that who is paying the freight? The exporter is paying the freight, and that is known as a dead freight, because he is not sending the goods, he is not exporting the goods on that date, but even then he is paying the full freight. So that term is known as the dead freight. Now the next procedure is that packing needs to be done, marketing needs to be done, forwarding needs to be done. So packing, if the exporter can do by itself, then okay, but it can be done by packing firm also, or a packing agent also. There are certain things in packing that the exporter needs to keep in mind. First is that if it is not packed according to instruction that is given by the importer, the exporter may have to bear the loss. Then packing has to be done in such a manner that the goods are completely safe, minimum space is required, then the goods can be distinguished from the other goods. And on every packet you have to write the name, number, mark and port of destination has to be mentioned on each package. Then for forwarding agent can do various formalities that are needed at the port, so the goods are ready to be forwarded now. Then the thing comes to be preparation of invoice and consular invoice. Okay, so invoice, the bill is prepared in triplicate, and in that the name of ship, the port of shipment, the destination, the indent number, details regarding the packing and the marking price, they all are to be mentioned there. Okay, and now we are going to discuss about the consular invoice. So if in those conditions where the price, the invoice has to be made on a value basis, on the basis of price quotation, so that is a consular invoice. And what is that? An invoice covering a shipment of goods certified by the consul of the country. The consul of the country has to certify it, and for which the merchandise is destined. Now then, that invoice is used by the custom officers of the country to verify the value, quantity and nature of the merchandise imported to determine the import duty. According to that consular invoice, now the import duty would be calculated. Now the 10th thing is that obtain the customs permit. Now, obtaining the customs permit, a custom export pass is issued in favor of the exporter after going through all the custom formalities to the satisfaction of the custom house. If everything is completed, if every formality is completed at the custom house, then the custom export gives a pass to the exporter. Now the next procedure is that the exporter has to pay the dock dues. After paying the dock dues, the dock authority retains one copy of the dock challan is prepared and they return second copy signed to the exporter and his agent. So that is known as a dock receipt. Okay, now for the shipment of goods, the captain of the ship or mate is the assistant of the captain of the ship. They receive the goods on board and the ship only when a copy of the shipping bill and the shipping order has been produced before him. So they will take the goods along with them only when the shipping order is produced before them. They get the shipping order and the shipping bill, then they are going to take the goods with them for the export. Now mate's receipt is done. Mate, we have done that he is the assistant of the captain of the ship. So the mate checks about the condition of the packing and everything else. So if he gets that everything is okay, so he gives a receipt without any remark. So that is known as a clean receipt of mate. And if it is not satisfied for the packing etc., he gives a remark to that effect. He writes a comment upon that, and that is known as a fore receipt. Now the last is the bill of lading. So it is a memorandum signed by the masters of ships acknowledging the receipt of the merchant's goods, that they have received the merchant goods, and one copy of bill of lading is sent to the importer. Delivery of the goods can't be taken without producing the bill of lading. Okay, it means as soon as everything is done, the exporter sends a copy of bill of lading, one copy of bill of lading to the importer, and when the goods reach there at the destination, so the importer needs to produce the bill of lading, then only he can take the handover of the goods. Now the bill of lading can be a clean bill of lading. Clean bill of lading is like that everything, the packing condition is satisfactory, and the full bill of lading is that packing condition is not satisfactory, and here it may happen that the importer is refusing to take the goods, and if the importer refuses to take the goods, then it may happen that the exporter may have to take it back, so that will be a complete loss for the exporter then. So to avoid all these losses, the exporter gives a letter letter of indemnity to the shipping company, so that in case of anything which is happening on the ship on the route, so that letter of indemnity, the shipping company will indemnify the exporter against all the losses. Okay, so all this was the procedure of export. So let's have a look again at all the things that we have studied earlier. The first thing is export procedure was that we have to receive inquiries and we have to send the quotations. Then we are going to receive a order or intent. Then the next thing that we had was we get a credit inquiry or the letter of credit. Then after that we have read about the different types of the letter of credit. Then the exporter has to take a certain license or quota, whatever is required in his case. Then the next step was he has to comply with all the foreign exchange regulations. Then exchange rate has to be fixed. Okay, then they have to obtain the shipping order, and then all the steps have to be done regarding the packing, marketing and forwarding. Then they have to prepare the invoice and the consular invoice if needed in that case. Then they have to obtain the customs permit, and after then they have to clear all the dock dues. Then they have to provide for the shipment of the goods. They have to make the assistant or the captain of the ship check that all the goods are in proper condition, that is a mate's receipt. And then finally they have to take the bill of lading and send it to the importer for the delivery of the goods. So thanks a lot. In the next video we'll be doing about the rest of the things of the chapter. Thanks a lot.